This is the Wizard of WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. We have with us at Wizard a very, very special guest all the way from Mexico. We work together at the Beta Gamma Sigma Leadership Global Leadership Summit a couple of years. He's awesome. He's an entrepreneur, and he is Pablo Ruz Salmones. Did I pronounce your name right, Pablo?
Yes, you did.
So, Pablo, first of all, the BGS is the Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society that is that is part of the AACSB, the accreditation agency for the top 5% of business schools in the world. So we met there at the Leadership Summit, and you're so awesome, always engaged, so many good questions.
Thank you.
Please describe what in your background inspired you to entrepreneurship, because you have your own business.
Yes. Well, so I'm gonna be very honest. I didn't think it that much, to be honest.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I think I didn't think it that much because I was an exchange student in New Zealand, and I once realized that I wanted to start something, so I called a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine from high school.
Mhm.
And I remember because I called him, he was in Mexico, and I called him all the way from New Zealand. I told him, hey, Esteban is his name, and I told him, hey Esteban, do you want to do this? And he was like, yeah, sure. He didn't think it that much either. But then once we started, there was nothing that was going to stop us because we realized how great it was and how awesome it was, and that we really wanted to do something great. So it was after starting that we decided that that was going to be what we're going to do the rest of our lives.
Was it something in class that inspired you? What's the epiphany for you to start this journey?
Yeah, yes, I was inspired by some of my professors, obviously, but most of all, I think I was inspired by my childhood and by the way I've lived all my life. I think I've always enjoyed being able to do things that we're going to have like an impact in the world, and I've always believed that it is our not only our if you have the opportunity, you also have the responsibility to do great things.
Mhm.
So I realized that the best way for me to do something that was long lasting in the world was to create a business that would be bigger than just me. So I said, let's do it. And I think that inspired me a lot.
What areas of the world have you gone on your as an international student besides New Zealand?
Yeah, so I've been to New Zealand. I studied at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh as well. I made like a summer course there in data science and analytics. And I've been to many other countries as a tourist, not as a student. I've been to several countries in Europe. I've been to Russia as well. I've been to some places in the Middle East as well. And it has really taught me so much. And I've also traveled in Mexico, inside Mexico, and I think Mexico has got over 29 different indigenous languages, and
Do you know any of them?
no, and I should learn some of them, but Nahuatl is the one that's spoken by most people. I think it's spoken by about 1 million people, like
What's it
from
called
the
again?
Nahuatl.
Nahuatl.
Yeah, it's that was inherited from the Aztecs. So so that's from the indigenous languages. That's the one that's most spoken.
Mm. Please describe Quedó. Did I pronounce it right? That's
It's
the name of your
actually it's Quedó, but yeah, that's
Jackado?
yeah,
Quedó.
yeah,
Oh,
but that's
Quedó.
perfectly fine.
Okay, so what does it mean? The whole
The word means like done, like it's done, like we're finished.
okay.
Yeah, that's and it's not such a one wouldn't think it's a name for a tech business because Yakedo is a tech business and we do AI, we do e-commerce, we do mobile apps. It's mostly software development, and we do some research of our own as well. But that name was because when we started our business, my friend and I, it had to do with a mobile app that was used for hiring different kinds of services such as plumbing or mechanic and all of that. And that's a very common word that is used. Well, those words, ya quedó and that put together, those are very common words that are used by the people who are doing those kind of jobs, you know. So we said, okay, let's name it like that. Eventually, that idea, which was the first idea that we had, didn't work, and we just just kept the name and kept working on it. And yeah, but that's what we do. We do a lot of AI software development, and we do some business plans as well. We've got a couple of partnerships. One with a big New York City company called Blue Ocean Global Technology, and one with another company from Africa called Clio's Africa. And for Clio's Africa, we do business plans. We do business plans for tech entrepreneurs in Africa, actually. Yeah.
Does Jakedo hold any patents?
When it comes to software, it's difficult to develop such patents. When it comes to hardware, it's a lot easier, But for software, it's difficult because you can certainly register what you're doing and the algorithms and all of it in different institutions in Mexico, and I'm sure in the US as well. But at least in Mexico, what you register is the code that's behind it. But if you change the code for whatever reason, then it becomes something different. So you would have to keep constantly registering everything.
Right.
But we do develop certain algorithms that we keep to ourselves, that we because I mean those algorithms are executed in the servers that we have, but and we develop that ourselves. So it's just like a black box. Basically, people can put some data and they'll get some output, but they don't know what happened inside. So it's not more like a patent, but it's more like the Coca-Cola formula. It's kept in a safe box. And
right.
That's what we do.
What mentors did you have, and how did you connect with them?
I think having mentors is one of the great things. I mean, you have to have a mentor, In my case, I've got, obviously, the first one was my mother, and then my dad as well. They taught me all I know about life, and they are the main reason, I'm here. My mom, she taught me so much, and she taught me to be disciplined, and she taught me leadership and everything. So of course my parents were the first mentors, but then I also had.
So was your mom in business as well, or it's just that she ran the family very well?
No, my mom is in business. My mom has got a business herself, a sort of like a PR agency in Mexico. And my dad is an artist. So because I'm a pianist too. So I sort of inherited both things. I inherited both things. So they were my first mentors.
And did you ever work in your mom's PR agency?
No, I never did. I mean, yes, I did help her with basically reading newspapers and just like storing boxes, and it was more like a manual job and manual labor, and I really liked it. But she did teach me the importance of running a business and the importance of doing it well. So I had both of them, and then of course came two other mentors. One is the CEO of Blue Ocean, actually. He's called Ruz Salmones. He's one of my mentors. I met him at the Global Leadership Summit 2 years ago. Actually, he was a speaker there, and the other one is my professor at Carnegie Mellon University. His name is Raja, and I wouldn't be able to pronounce his last name properly, I'm afraid. He's from India. Both of them are from India, actually, and Raja, I met him because he was my professor, and I just kept exchanging emails with him, and everything was great. And in the case of Samir, I think that's a different story, because he was a speaker there, and I really liked everything that he was saying when at his conference. And I said, you know what, I really want to meet this guy. So I sent him an email that took me about 2 hours to write. A very long email, an email that I thought about very, very well. And then he replied, and then I was so happy about it, and we just kept exchanging emails, and eventually we got to talk, and we became close friends.
What's his specialty, Samir's specialty?
Samir is a great speaker, and Samir's company, Blue Ocean, does everything with online reputation management. And we actually established a partnership with them because we at Quedó have knowledge of all the algorithms, and we develop all the algorithms. So I mean, most of our the people who work with us are engineers, computer engineers, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so am I. I'm a business engineering and computer engineering major. So you know, we established a partnership with him because it was just he was the one who suggested it, and we couldn't be happier about it. We couldn't be happier about it. Um, we do lots of algorithms with them, and they do the online reputation management, and we offer their services. They are starting to offer our services, so we established a partnership that was great, but it was all based in mutual trust and mutual friendship, which I think is the most important thing when you're developing an alliance with a company.
Totally. What is the difference between engineering and business engineering?
Well, you know, I've been majoring in it for about 4 years, and I'm still not sure. But yeah, so what I can say though is I think business engineering is a mix between management and industrial engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So we you know we have lots of finance classes, we have lots of accounting classes, and lots of economics and marketing and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But we also take like some subjects that are more related to software development, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, that's why I decided to double major in business engineering and computer engineering, which is a logical thing to do
Mm-hmm.
because having the business knowledge and like a taste of what computer engineering was, I realized the importance of knowing both worlds.
How are you able to juggle everything? I'm assuming those subjects are difficult and you have to spend a lot of time studying, but you're also running your own business as well.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've, ever since I remember, I've done many things because I've always had lots of things that I love and lots of interests.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, yes, I had to juggle that with also piano because I give piano concerts. You know, I give piano concerts in different. I've given piano concerts here in the U.S., in Mexico, and in New Zealand. So it's juggling everything at the same time, and yeah, sometimes it's very challenging. Sometimes it can be very difficult to do it, but I really love it, and I think that you know many people throughout my life have told me that I should just pick one thing that I want to be great at, and you know I agree with them. I agree with them in the sense that you just need to be great at one thing and that's it. But I cannot deny that I have so many interests and I
Right.
love doing so many things, and I've always been able to do it by either you know. I mean, I run my own business, but I have a great team behind me,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to rely on your team because otherwise it doesn't matter. Like there's this African proverb that I love that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I juggle everything because I have great people behind me, because I have great people with me that go with me all the way,
Mm-hmm.
and because I have managed to see and that there's certain overlapping between everything, even between music and business. There's lots of overlapping
How so?
because you know whenever you're starting piano, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you have to practice a song or something for about 6 to 8 months just to have 10 minutes or 20 minutes of someone's attention. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
do a huge amount of work just for 20 minutes of complete attention from somebody or
Mm-hmm.
from your audience. In that sense, I do a lot of work with business just to get one result, just to get one product out there. You have to be patient and you have to work very hard. And I think patience is something that's lacking right now in so many people. I love this quote by Jack Ma. He said, you know, today it goes something like this: today is horrible, tomorrow is worse, but the day after is beautiful. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it just speaks of how patient you have to be to accomplish something. And music has taught me all of that because music has taught me that even for just 10 minutes, I need to work 6 months or 7 months,
So
and that's
how
fine.
many hours do you practice a day ideally?
So ideally, I try to practice an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I practice a bit more. Sometimes I practice a bit less, and sometimes when I'm close to a concert, I have to practice 2 or 3 hours every day because that's just the only way in which you can do great. You know, when performing. So yeah, I mean, it's just about juggling everything and never surrendering. Just keep going, keep going. And right now, I mean, I'm 23, so right now I have the energy and I have everything. You know, because maybe in 20 or 30 years I won't be able to do everything at the same time. Right now I can,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I do it.
And you have a great team right now too.
Yeah, yeah, I have a great team.
So what is the most important advice that your mentor gave you?
Well, I've got two of them. Raja once told me, never take a job. After I told him everything that I was doing in the entrepreneurship and all the projects that we had,
Mm.
he told me, Pablo, please never take a job. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to be great at it. And, I just listened to him, and that was some great advice. And in the case of Samira, I think the advice that he's given me hasn't come in just like in one quote. It's been a constant feedback, and that's just his style, and I think it's great. He just gives constant feedback to people,
Mhm.
and he's taught me the importance of building great relationships with everyone I meet. He's taught me the importance of having a great reputation, of having and building a great profile, and he's also encouraged me to do everything that I do. So in that sense, I think the greatest advice from both of them would be never to surrender. Just keep what you're doing. It's just like Churchill once said: "If we're going through hell, keep going. Why would you stop in hell?"
So you never really held a regular job, but being a pianist is a regular job for you in a sense because
In a sense, it is. Yes, in a sense, it is. I mean, it's more of I don't give concerts every 2 months or every 3 months, so I maybe twice a year.
Mhm.
So it more is. I mean, I do have I have a repertoire that I just change a couple of things for every concert because
Mhm.
I don't have enough time to come up with a completely different repertoire for each concert.
Right.
So I just have one that I keep adding pieces or taking away some of them, and more than I wouldn't call it a regular job. I think it's more of one of my passions. One of
Mhm.
the Oscar Wilde used to say that something like, if you love what you're doing, it's not really a job.
Mhm.
And I think that applies to most of what I do. Most of what I do, I love. And in the case of being a pianist, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
What is most difficult about international business?
Actually, I think it's being international, um, because when you can travel to as many countries as you can and still fail to understand 50 or 60% of the people in this world. You can travel to as many countries as you can and still don't understand that there are people that have nothing to eat tomorrow. The people who live in extreme poverty, and you'll never get to understand that world completely. So when I think of international business, I think of you have to keep in mind whose world you're actually changing. Whose world you're actually changing, because you might say AI is going to change the world. Yes, for sure, but I'm not sure it's going to change the immediate world for people who live in poverty in Mexico or in Africa in the next 20 years. It don't matter how much AI is just moving forward. So
Mhm.
you have to keep in mind that. So the most difficult thing in international business is to have a good understanding of the world, to have a good understanding of how the world works, and the
Mhm.
differences that exist between different cultures, the differences that exist in different countries, and that people are different everywhere. People are different everywhere,
Mhm.
and yet we all share many, many things. So grasping the essence of the world and grasping the essence of people is key to building a global business. And that's the most difficult thing, because you have to read a lot, you have to meet a lot of people, and you have to spend like a lot of time analyzing, thinking, and feeling what other people are feeling.
That resonates well with me as well. My the most important advice that I got from my professors is that there it's very hard to assimilate the culture, but that's the most important thing about doing business. And no matter how hard you try, you just won't ever be able to assimilate enough culture because you have to
Yeah,
grow up there in order to uh, truly understand what's going on.
yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah.
then, how are you able to overcome that difficulty in assimilating culture enough to operate business wise?
You have to speak to people and you have to learn from people. One of my favorite quotes is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "In my walks, every person I meet is my superior in some way, and in that I learn from them." And you have to keep in mind that every single person you meet has something to teach you. And I always know, I've always thought that Everyone has got a story behind them. It's just a matter of getting to know that story. And when you get to know people's stories, when you get to know who they are, when you get to know how they live, and when you get to know how they see the world, because the mind and the heart are what determine people's way of seeing the world. So when you get to know all of that, you get to understand their world. So the key to running a global business and is just talking to people, learning from people, and trying to do your best to understand how people are living and what people are feeling.
Well, we're really picking your brain today, Pablo, because at the Global Leadership Summit, we noticed that you're always your questions are always among the best, and that's where the practice comes from.
Yeah. Thank you. I love asking questions. Yes.
How many people are on your Quedó team, and how did you come to find them? Well, I know about your friend from high school, but what about the rest?
Yeah, so right now we've got like a the main team, to call it that way, consists of 9 people. That's the main team. But we shared teams with some of the people from New York and India with the Blue Oceans team. So we've got like we share some of their skills and they share some of the team here. So the overall team is much larger. And but I came to know them. I think that's an interesting story, because as we started to grow and we started growing, like the company started growing, we realized we needed certain skills. But we don't hire based on skills. We hire based on values. I like to say that we hire great people who also happen to be great engineers. So we basically took a look at at different universities in Mexico, and we took a look at their programs, at their degrees that they were offering, and we selected those that would fit best for us. And then we sent, emails to these universities so that they could help us with their students. We're a young team. All of us, I think, are under 24. I mean, I'm 23, and I'm pretty sure all of us are under 24. And we interview them. And when we interviewed them, we looked for values first. We looked for what was their main motivation, what was their greatest dream, what they really wanted to do in life. Because we are committed not only, obviously, to growing the business, but we're committed to growing people inside our business. We're committed to them. We're committed, if they're trusting that we can do something great, we need to help them do and achieve their dreams. So we hire based on that, and then that's how we get to know them. And after that, well, we select the best that we can, the best for the position that they're applying for, and we hire them, and then we get to know them a lot better.
I noticed that you want to change the world for the better. Without revealing any trade secrets, how is your work in AI able to change the world for the better?
I think that, first you have to, as I was telling you, first you have to understand whose world you're changing. That's the first thing. It's just like in business, like a target market.
Yes.
It's kind of the same, although whose world is probably much broader than just a target market, because you impact so many people. But once that, I think AI and tech have the power to, I think AI and tech have the power to change the way people interact with other people. And I think they've got the power to bring tools that were before only thinkable for great companies or very wealthy people to people who don't have those opportunities. So I think, because, everything it's just like when Henry Ford came up with the idea of building the car with, I don't know what's the right term, but with, not the way they were doing it in Europe, was handmade, but actually making it like in a production line, to call it that way.
Yes.
And I think it's sort of the same, because that made something a lot cheaper and it made it available to many people. In that sense, I think AI has the power to do the same, because AI has the power to interact with so many people and bring great tools to people who didn't have them before. So it can be applied to medicine, it can be applied to finance, it can be applied to many different disciplines. We actually try to apply it into finance, and it just has a power for people who have not a financial education, for example, to interact with some financial instruments. They don't need to know that if the system knows it. So in that way, I think it will help bring lots of good things to many people. So yeah, I think that's how we will change the world.
So I guess one of the most impoverished populations that you are trying to help, the only access they have to tech would be their phone. What does it start with the phone?
Yeah, I think it starts with the phone. Fortunately, some people are, more and more people are having access to that because, I mean, there are still some people who haven't got access to a phone. At least in Mexico, they have
Right.
access to a TV if they have access to something, that is. Um, but yeah, it just all starts with having something that you have control over, like your phone. And once you have that, you can start doing lots of things because you literally have the world in your hands. So you can learn, you can interact with people from different parts of the world, you can interact with people in your communities, you can interact with all of that. And I think it all starts with sort of like democratizing technology. You have to make it available to as many people as possible. Obviously, just if it is helping them, because one might say that, having a phone will only be helpful if you've got something to eat tomorrow. Because if not,
Right.
you're just gonna go sell the phone and put food in your table.
Exactly.
So you have to start with again, in whose world you're helping. Tech, I don't think tech will be able to help as quickly as other things to people who are like incredibly poor. But
Yes.
people who are sort of like in the middle, not middle class, but below middle class, but that trying to push forward. I think tech can be of great help to them.
Mhm. Would you say that uh, people have more access to digital or to phone? Maybe like share access on online or to phone worldwide. In so far in your experience.
Well, in my experience, it's because of the places I've been to and because of where I traveled, I think most people have access to digital technologies, and most people have access to Wi-Fi, internet, and all of that. But I've been to some places where they haven't got access to any of it. So in that sense, I think the world is such a big place, and the world is such at the same time it's small because you
Right.
you know you meet someone who knows you for whatever reason.
Right.
But at the same time, the world is such a big place, and the world is a place in which you um in which people have access to different technologies, and you have to grasp the differences that exist between those people. Because let me tell you something: the difference between, for example, someone like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett and us is that they are traveling in private planes. I mean, the difference in money is of a huge amount. They've had hundreds of billions of dollars, but yet the lifestyle is, we are still able to travel to the Middle East, we're still able to travel to Europe, and the difference is of $100 billion. But the difference between us and someone who's living in poverty might be of $100,000, might be of $10,000, but they are not able to travel to Europe. So the difference that exists in the amount of money that people have does not account for the difference that exists in lifestyle. Because the differences in lifestyle between middle class people and people who live in poverty is huge.
Right.
Although the differences in the amount of money is not that much, whereas the difference of the amount of money that the wealthiest people have and we have is huge, but the difference in the lifestyle is not that different. It's not that huge.
So everything is relative, and it depends on what issue you're trying to address.
That's right.
At Wizard, we assist the community for our quarterly issues that our on-air DJs or wizards, because it's WZRD,
Yeah.
must submit to the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, for our non-entertainment programming. You are a part of our international community. What one thing is most important to you?
I think the most important thing to me is whenever you're saying something, you have to say it right, and you need to make sure that it has the greatest impact for as many people. I'd like to think that Like if I was given, say that you were given, for example, 2 minutes to say something that the rest of the world was going to listen to, and that the rest of the world was going to understand, you have to communicate it in such a way that, well, the world will pay attention to you. I mean, it's going to be the most important message in your whole life. The whole world's going to be listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to say to them? What are you going to say to them that can actually have an impact in their lives? What are you going to say to them that can actually change their lives in just a couple of minutes? You're having the world's attention. So I think that whenever you're saying something to someone, you need to make sure that it's for the best. You need to make sure that they will understand what you're saying, and you need to make sure that you also understand where they are, and you need to understand your audience. It's just like in a concert, I cannot go into a classical recital hall and start playing some rock music. I need to know who's on the other side of the line, and I need to know who's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Just as when you're delivering a message, you need to know who's going to be on the other side, and you need to be who's going to be listening, because that way your message is going to go, is not going to go into deaf ears. People are going to listen to it.
That is very amazing, Papa Ruz Salmones. You are always aware of your place in the universe. Every
Yeah.
second, it seems.
Yeah, I like to think so. I try to, at least.
Well, not many people make that effort. Let me put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what is the most important issue to address long term?
I wouldn't know if it's long term, but it's definitely global warming. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to have a future if we don't address that. So I think in case of global warming, we need to do it right now, so that in the long term we have a planet to live in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about, some people might say, oh, we're just going to build, like, there's this movie called Elysium, where people go and build this great space station,
Yes.
and some people go there. But it's not about that. It's about doing the right thing. We owe so much to Mother Earth, and we need to pay her back with our best efforts, So in the long term, I think, obviously global warming, and I think that there's something else that has to do with people's hearts. It has to do with, because things that are right are meant to be done because they are right, not because it's good for business. And I'm a businessman, and I obviously understand that you always have to financially perform. But you have to do the right thing because it is the right thing to do, not because it's just going to be good for business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, nothing discourages me more than knowing that there are businesses considering making, I don't know, electrical cars because they think that's going to be best for their business. It's like, you have to do it because it's best for the future. You have to do it because it's the right thing to do for the rest of the population, and because it's the right thing to do for the rest of the world, So in that sense, what we're doing is not changing people's hearts or people's minds. What we're actually doing is just, making some experiments, which are great. I mean, I'm happy that things are being built. I'm just saying that would not solve the problem of not being empathic to the rest of the world,
Mm-hmm.
So in the long term, I think that's the greatest issue.
What is the most important issue to resolve now?
Now that we start working on it, we have to. Now, talking is great, but you actually have to start doing the job. You have to, because the future that we're going to have is not the future that we wish, it's the future that we build.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, we have to start addressing things now, so that in the future we can have the world we all want. So, attacking a big problem in the short term is almost always impossible, because you have to convince so many people, and that's not an easy thing to do. But if you start doing it now, in 2 years, you will have done a great amount of things. I know there's this, I don't know who said it, I think it was Bill Gates or someone like that, had said people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, we need to start working now on the world's biggest problems. We need to start tackling them now, because I mean, the easier answer for me would be to say, well, we'll just need to and find a vaccine for coronavirus. And yeah, that is true, that is true, but we cannot lose focus on the long-term issues. So my answer would be, start working right now for solving things that are going to become a problem in 10 or 15 years.
Which is global warming for the other question, for the long term.
Yeah,
That's most
indeed.
important.
Yeah, we need to start working on it.
What advice do you have for our COBM or College of Business and Management students at NEIU?
I think you have to reach out. That is the advice I can give you. Reach out to as many people as you can. There's nothing as important as getting to know the world. You know, after you have lots of business lessons which are amazing and which will give you a great understanding of the theoretical framework under which businesses operate and under which the world operates, but you also have to step out of there and take a look at the world and do things like in the way the other people are doing them, you know. So you have to reach out, meet people, meet as many people as you can and talk to them and learn from them, because if you're able to put together your theoretical background with the practical things that you're going to be doing, you're going to be unstoppable, and you have to do it, you know. That's going to be a bomb, and you really have to reach out for people, and you have to know the world. So be a great student, do your best in every single one of your classes, but know that is not the whole world. The whole world is much, much larger.
And you could talk a little bit about your presentation later. You will be presenting at the International Business Conference at the Northeastern Illinois University, NEIU, and we're so happy to have you.
Yeah, sure. I'll be presenting in 5 minutes, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll be presenting in 5 minutes. The conference is called Born Global, and it's actually about how to build global businesses. It's how to build global and international businesses. I really hope I will see you all there. It's going to be I've been preparing it for a while, so I hope I will be able to deliver as much value as I can to as many people as I can. So I expect to see you there, and thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Pablo, for being on the WZRD.
Thank
and
you.
Have a great conference and have a great stay.
Thank you so much.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM.
You want me to stop?